Now, as you can see in front of us right now, we have a board with 32 different NHL teams, and we need to figure out which NHL team is going to be the last team standing. But we're not just going to have the regular rosters matching up against each other, but instead, I have sent every player in the NHL back to their last team. Not the team that drafted them, but just the last team they played on. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory what our rosters are going to be looking like today, but I'll just show an example to clarify any questions. Now, I think the easiest way for me to do this is go with Vladimir Tarasenko, because Tarasenko over the last couple years, he's played for a lot of different teams. Of course, he started his career with the St. Louis Blues, and then he played 31 games with the New York Rangers before heading over to the Ottawa Senators. And then, of course, he played with the Florida Panthers, won a Stanley Cup there. Then he played for the Red Wings, and now he's on the Minnesota Wild. So when it comes to the last team that Vladimir Tarasenko played for, that's going to be the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I do want to mention, the player actually has to play for that team. They could have been traded to a different team, but if they never played any games for that franchise, then I'm not going to count that team as one of the teams they played for. So Brock Faber is a perfect example of this. Although he was drafted by the LA Kings, he never actually played any games for the LA Kings, so he's not going to be moving back over to LA. Instead, he's just going to be staying on the Minnesota Wild. So now that I've gone over all of those concerns, let's spin the wheel and figure out what our first matchup is going to be. So let's figure out who our first attacking team is going to be with our first spin. It looks like it's going to be the Nashville Predators. So the Nashville Predators are going to be our attacking team, but who exactly are they going to be taking on? Well, it looks like we're going to have the Nashville Predators taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I would like to say that every roster is 100% accurate, but there is a chance I missed one or two players, so I will mention that right now. Ideally, everything is 100% perfect here, but I just can't guarantee that. But when looking at this Nashville Predators team, Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg are clearly going to be the top guys. Kiefer Sherwood, you should probably be playing in the top 6, but you know what? These are the head coach preferred lines, so that's what we're going to be rocking. When it comes to the defense, they actually have a pretty solid defense. Roman Josi, Matthias Ekholm, Ryan McDonough, Samuel Girard, Stastny, and Shen. Nashville is going to be living or dying by their defense. And then when it comes to goaltending, UC Saros and Scott Wedgwood, that's a pretty good tandem. Let's go figure out whether or not Detroit can compete with this. Now, it's actually kind of funny, but the Nashville Predators and the Detroit Red Wings are actually pretty similar. They have two main guys leading the forward core, being Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. And then when it comes to the defense, it doesn't look too bad. You have a decent amount of high overalls on the team. Even your third pairing is looking pretty strong. However, when it comes to goaltending, it's not quite as good. You have Alex Lyons to start, Pierre Mrazek backing him up. I think that could be the lone thing holding the Red Wings back. So it's finally time for our first matchup. The Nashville Predators taking on the Detroit Red Wings. The winner of this game is going to be staying alive, while the loser, well, they're going to be eliminated. In the first period, it looks like the defense is exchanging goals. Only Mata and Roman Josi are exchanging them. Moving into the second, it looks like it's going to be a scoreless one. No surprise, this is a low-scoring game. We might even be off to overtime in matchup number 1. But maybe I spoke a little bit too soon, because the St. Louis Blues hero is going to be stepping up. Vladimir Tarasenko, he's picking up a big goal for the Red Wings, and he's giving them the lead. And then David Perron, another St. Louis Blues hero, he's going to be doubling down. The St. Louis Blues are really showing up in this one, and then Kiefer Sherwood would respond. Now, at this point, this is just the St. Louis Red Wings. Vladimir Tarasenko, another goal. This was the St. Louis Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings did not show up at all in this game. This was the St. Louis Red Wings. So the Red Wings are dominating in matchup number 1, and just like that, the Nashville Predators are going to be our first team eliminated. Now, normally in videos like this, I would have a player moving from Nashville over to the Red Wings. However, I feel like that doesn't really make too much sense in a video like this. Like, we're sending players to their last team. Why on earth should the Red Wings get Philip Forsberg? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. I feel like all that's going to do is just end up making this video a lot more confusing, because at some point you could have Connor McDavid playing for the Utah Mammoth, and that just wouldn't make any sense. So matchup number 1 is officially in the books. The video's underway. It's time to keep on rolling, and it looks like our next attacking team is going to be the Philadelphia Flyers. So we know that Philly's attacking, but we haven't really figured out who they're going to be taking on until now. It looks like they're taking on the San Jose Sharks. Now, San Jose might be a bit of an interesting team. I say that because I'm actually not 100% sure what the roster looks like at the moment. Now, the Philadelphia Flyers are actually looking like a really solid team. There is no low overalls when it comes to the forward core. Yeah, you don't have any superstars here, but you have a lot of guys that can play the role. When it comes to the defense, Travis Sanheim, Provorov, Zamula, Cam York, this defense isn't atrocious. Is it the best in the world? Absolutely not, but it doesn't look terrible. And then when it comes to goaltending, it's Carhart and Ersson. So not the greatest goaltenders in the world, just 282 overalls, but I wouldn't say there's any really weak points on this team. Now, when it comes to the San Jose Sharks, I will will say right now, in the event a team doesn't have enough players, I will call up players from their AHL affiliate just to make this work. Now, when it comes to the San Jose Sharks, luckily we don't have to worry about the problem I was originally worried about. Timu Meyer, Macklin Salbrini, Will Smith, Tomas Hertl, Will Smith. That's a pretty solid forward core. And then when it comes to the defense, Jake Wallman, Eric Carlson, Mario Ferraro, Jacob Middleton. This defense isn't atrocious, and they actually have some pretty solid goaltending. Mackenzie Blackwood and Aiden Hill, you can definitely win with that. So you might be wondering, why was I originally concerned with the San Jose Sharks? Well, let's look at the healthy scratches. Lone Couture, Ryan Ellis, Carey Price. Now, I know I didn't technically send these three guys back to their original teams because Carey Price should technically go to Montreal, but I just left all three of these guys here because they were 70 overalls. Now, when I was moving players around, technically these three guys were holding a roster spot, so I actually wasn't 100% sure if I had enough NHL players on this San Jose Sharks team. I was thinking there was a possibility that one of these three players was actually going to be playing active minutes for this team, and of course we can't allow that to happen. But with all three of them being healthy scratches, we don't have to worry about that, so we can just focus on our matchup, which is the Philadelphia Flyers taking on the San Jose Sharks. Now, I want to say that the San Jose Sharks are the heavy favorite in this matchup. They have a really good offense, the defense is actually pretty solid, and they have great goaltending, so what is going to stop this team? Absolutely nothing. They are dominating the Philadelphia Flyers. Will Smith, did you just pick up a hat trick? It looks like it. Will Smith was dominating for the Sharks, and he's going to lead them to a 6-1 win. So shout out to Will Smith and the San Jose Sharks for that dominant performance, taking down the Philadelphia Flyers. The Sharks are going to be claiming their first logo of the video. Honestly, don't be surprised if the San Jose Sharks go on a bit of a run here. Their team's looking pretty solid. Now, so far, we're yet to see an attacking team win their matchup, so let's see if this next team can change that. New Jersey, you are lacking one major thing on your team, and you guys will see it in a moment. Now, there's actually two things we have to do before we figure out what the New Jersey Devils are lacking. The first thing we have to do is figure out who they're going to be taking on, and it looks like that's going to be the Dallas Stars. And the second thing is having you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 100K in 2026. Honestly, I never thought I'd say those words, but here we are. And of course, I want to hit 100K as soon as possible. So if you haven't subscribed already, hit the button down below right now. We have bangers dropping all 2026. Now, the New Jersey Devils forward core is certainly not the problem with this team. They actually have a really solid forward core. When looking at their defense, that's pretty solid as well. Luke Hughes and Severson are going to be leading the way. Nemec and Kevin Ball, that's going to be a pretty solid second pairing. Their main problem is goaltending, because when it comes to goaltending, Schmid and Kaapo Kähkönen are technically the best options. And Kaapo Kähkönen, technically you shouldn't even be an option, because the last team you played on certainly wasn't the New Jersey Devils, but instead it was the Colorado Avalanche. However, New Jersey doesn't have any goaltenders. Like, there is no goalies in the league, where the last team they played on was the New Jersey Devils. I don't know how it worked out that way, but that's just the case. I guess technically Nico Daws could be the backup for the Devils, and maybe I'll go swap out the backup goaltenders, but at the end of the day, Schmid's the number one here, so regardless of who the backup goaltender is, that doesn't really change too much. But yeah, I will go change the backup goaltenders. Nico Daws, you're the guy, of course. Now, when it comes to the Dallas Stars, they are the heavy favorite in this video. Their team just looks elite. They are incredible from top to bottom. Even their defense looks amazing. This team is the heavy favorite, because they even have a superstar goaltender, Jake Ottinger. Yes, they don't have a backup, so I just called up their AHL affiliate goalie, but you have Jake Ottinger and then this team in front of Jake Ottinger. Yeah, realistically, they're probably a top 3 team. Now, New Jersey, you're probably taking on the best team. As I just mentioned, Dallas is definitely a top 3 team here, so you're going to have your work cut out for you. But it looks like you're off to a great start as you're outscoring them in the first period. Moving into the second, though, Tanev and Nichushkin are both picking up goals. The Devils are trailing by 1 entering the third. They better find some offense pretty quick. And you know what? It looks like the offense isn't coming from the New Jersey Devils, but instead the Dallas Stars. Lindell's going to be picking up a big-time goal. Time is not on the Devils' side. We're entering the final 5 minutes. They're yet to respond, and I think it's safe to say this one's over. Kyle Palmieri would pick up a late goal, but that goal really doesn't mean anything because they weren't able to pick up another one, so that means the Dallas Stars are taking down the New Jersey Devils. Now, I feel like the outcome of that game really shouldn't surprise anyone. The Dallas Stars look incredible. They're definitely the team to beat. I also want to mention with that Dallas Stars victory, we are yet to see an attacking team win a game. Detroit, you've already been able to win a game while defending. Now it's time for you to attack. So we already know what Detroit's roster looks like, and we already know what they're about, but when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, we'll have to take a look at them. So here is the Edmonton Oilers' new roster. Basically their roster over the last 2 seasons. Like, this looks very similar to what they've run the past 2 years. Not really too much for me to go over here. I will say though, the one thing I do find very funny is the time in which I'm recording this video, because guess who's back in between the pipes? Who is the number one once again? Stuart Skinner's back in Edmonton. He might have been gone for 5 or 6 games, but now he's back in Edmonton and he's looking to lead them to another victory. Now there's a possibility we see our 4th straight attacking team lose here, because the Edmonton Oilers are looking pretty solid. They have Connor McDavid, they have Leon Draisaitl, but who cares about those guys? Because Connor Brown and John Klingberg are the guys stepping up. They're picking up goals in the first. Moving into the second is Draisaitl and Danielson. It's a 1-goal game entering the third. Maybe Edmonton's not guaranteed victory here. I was thinking the Edmonton Oilers would be the heavy favorite in this matchup just because of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. When those two guys are on the ice together, they're absolutely dominating. Right now, they're just exchanging power plays. No one has picked up a goal in the third period. We're entering the final minute. Can Detroit bury one? It doesn't look like it. The Edmonton Oilers are going to be taking this one 3-2, and in our 4th straight matchup, the attacking team's going to be falling. Okay, seriously, what is it about attacking teams losing? 4 straight attacking teams have lost. They shouldn't be losing like this all the time. Now, I don't care who the next attacking team is, and I don't care who the next defending team is. We're cheering for the attacking team. We are all New York Islander fans right now. Also, before I even spin the wheel, I'm going to make this comment. Watch it land on the St. Louis Blues. I just said we're all New York Islander fans heading into this matchup. Watch it land on the St. Louis Blues, and the St. Louis Blues are going to be our defending team. Okay, I guess I'm going to be wrong. Instead, it's the Minnesota Wild. Now, in taking a look at the New York Islanders, honestly, this team does not really look any different. They look pretty similar. A lot of the core pieces are still here. Like, when it comes to their defense, Devon Toews is going to be rejoining, Noah Dobson's going to be rejoining, and then it's just the Islanders defense. And then when it comes to goaltending, your starter is the exact same. It's still Sorokin. So the Islanders really didn't see that many changes. I mean, I guess Jordan Eberle is back on the team, Brock Nelson is back on the team, and he did lose a handful of pieces. So yeah, I guess you can say this team is pretty different. When it comes to the Minnesota Wild, of course, the massive Quinn Hughes trade has been reversed. So Marco Rossi is back on the team. Kevin Fiala is going to be on the team as well. Kevin Fiala is actually a very interesting addition for the Minnesota Wild, because when he was traded away, the Minnesota Wild got Brock Faber. But as I mentioned earlier, Brock Faber never played a game for the LA Kings, so Brock Faber is still on this team. So yeah, you traded away Kevin Fiala, but then you got Kevin Fiala back when I brought him to the team, and you got to keep Brock Faber. Nah, you guys fleeced the LA Kings. Meanwhile, when it comes to goaltending, of course, Jesper Wallstedt is number 1, and then when it comes to a backup, I just called up their AHL affiliate because there was no other goaltender I could add. So we are all New York Islanders fans right now. We are all cheering for the Islanders, and we want to see the Islanders win this game. Unfortunately, though, they are going to get outscored in the first period. Moving into the second, they're going to match the Minnesota Wild, but they're still going to be trailing by 1 entering the third period. There is no way we see 5 straight defending team victories, but I think we're about to witness that. Like, I don't know how it's worked out that way. I have no clue why the defending teams are just so good. Like, everything is completely randomized, but somehow, even with all of that, the defending teams just keep on winning. John Tavares would pick up a late goal, but his late goal isn't going to be enough. The Minnesota Wild are winning this one. That is now 5 straight defending team victories. I don't know why the defending team has the upper hand, but I guess they do. Alright, so I think we figured out the strat in this video. If you somehow want to win and be the last team standing, just don't attack. As long as you're the defending team for as long as possible, you're likely going to be walking away as the last team standing. Now, are any attacking teams going to win? Because this is getting beyond ridiculous. Pittsburgh, find a way to change the trend. Because I'm sorry, but we just can't have attacking teams losing every matchup. Like, we can't just have the defending teams winning everything. It's just not right. So Pittsburgh, beat Winnipeg. Now, Pittsburgh, I guess there is one massive thing I overlooked with you guys. You're playing Winnipeg in an NHL game. You do not stand a chance. I don't care how good your team is, even though it's really not that good. You are playing Winnipeg in an NHL game. You are not winning. It doesn't matter how poorly the Winnipeg Jets currently look in the actual NHL. None of that matters. And why does none of that matter? Is because in NHL 26, this is one of the greatest teams of all time. For some unknown reason, I don't know what it is about the Winnipeg Jets, but for some reason in NHL games, this team is always one of the greatest of all time, and it doesn't make any sense. All right, Pittsburgh, good luck. That's really all I can say. It's the Winnipeg Jets in NHL 26, but maybe you can break the curse. Maybe you, as an attacking team, can beat the Winnipeg Jets. You have a 1-0 lead entering the third. Beat Winnipeg and beat the defending team. Dmitry Kulikov's picking up a big goal. Drew O'Connor's going to double down. Are the Winnipeg Jets, the defending team, finally going to lose? Are we finally going to see an attacking team win this game? It looks like it. Brian Russ is picking up a power play goal. It's a 4-0 victory for the Pittsburgh Penguins. A defending team is finally losing. It's time to celebrate. Now, it's a beautiful day that we have to celebrate. An attacking team actually winning. Honestly, I never thought we would see the day. I didn't think an attacking team would ever win. Now, we need to figure out whether or not the attacking teams can keep that momentum going. Can they find a way to win another game? Vancouver's going to be on the attack next, and they actually have some decent pieces. Honestly, the more I think about it, the Vancouver Canucks actually might be a dominant force. They might be one of the toughest teams to take down. Now, when looking at this Vancouver Canucks team, they're actually pretty solid because of how many players they brought back to the team. Bo Horvat's rejoining, JT Miller's rejoining, Elias Lindholm's rejoining, Podkolzin and Pius Suter. This team just looks way better across the board than the current Vancouver Canucks. However, in saying that, the defense is questionable, and I mean very questionable. Quinn Hughes, obviously you're the number one here, but when it comes to the rest of the supporting cast, I don't really know if it's going to be good enough. But at the end of the day, you have Quinn Hughes, and he does mean quite a bit. And then when it comes to goaltending, you have Thatcher Demko as the starter. Shilov's going to be backing him up. But what do you know about Thatcher Demko? Bro's an absolute superstar. He can definitely be a game changer for them. If that was NHL 25 Thatcher Demko, we would be talking a complete different story. They would just smoke absolutely everybody. However, it's not NHL 25 Thatcher Demko. The Calgary Flames are still a solid team though, don't get me wrong. They have decent offense, they have great goaltending and great defense, but can they compete with Vancouver? Probably, because Vancouver's going to find a way to fold. They're going to find a way to lose this game. So Vancouver, are you going to completely choke in this matchup? Or are you going to allow attacking teams to win back-to-back games? We're going to find out pretty quick. The Canucks are going to start the goal scoring off in the first period with a goal from Sasson. Moving into the second, they're absolutely dominating this one. We don't need to jump to the third period because we know Vancouver's winning this one, and it looks like they're going to win it 5-2. So the attacking team's dominance is going to continue. Back-to-back victories for them. Honestly, I never thought we would see the day. Honestly though, I don't know what's more surprising, the attacking team winning or Vancouver just not completely folding. But you know what? That's honestly just one of life's greatest mysteries. Moving on to our next matchup, the St. Louis Blues can be on the attack, and you certainly can't sleep on this team. If you think you can sleep on the Blues, then you're sadly mistaken. They have a pretty solid team. Boston's going to have some decent pieces, of course, but I'm not really too sure if they can compete with St. Louis, because we have to remember exactly who St. Louis is bringing back to the team. Tage Thompson's going to be rejoining, Barbashev's rejoining, Jaden Schwartz is rejoining, the forward core is looking a lot better. When it comes to the defense, Vince Dunn's rejoined the team. I guess we need another defenseman here because we do not want Alex Pietrangelo playing defensive minutes for us. That is not the move. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call up a defenseman from the AHL because Alex Pietrangelo, that is certainly not the move. And then when it comes to goaltending, Team Canada Olympic goalie Jordan Binnington is going to be in between the pipes for us. Binner's ready to lead us to another gold medal, or he's going to be the backup behind Logan Thompson or something. At the end of the day, we can't focus on that right now. We have to focus on calling an AHL player up because yeah, Alex Pietrangelo, you're not the guy for us. Also, I'm sorry, but what is this disrespect? Where is my man Zachary Bolduc? I know for a fact he's on this team. They have him as a healthy scratch. No, that's not right. Now, when it comes to the Boston Bruins, yes, they have some pieces here, but honestly, this team isn't looking too hot. Like, the bottom six is pretty weak. Even the second line is really weak for the Boston Bruins. I can't imagine we're going to be losing to them. However, they do have offensive defensive defenseman Brandon Carlo, and we cannot sleep on Brandon Carlo. He might be the guy that takes us down. Also, Allmark and Swayman are back together. So yeah, there is that. Now, after seeing 5 straight defending team victories, we've seen 2 attacking team victories in a row, and St. Louis is looking to make that 3 in a row. Alexei Torpchenko is going to start the goal scoring off in the first period. Moving into the second, Brandon Saad's going to be finding the back of the net. We started off with 5 defending team victories, and we might be moving to 3 attacking team victories. I don't know what's with the streaks in this video, but that's just the way she goes. But maybe I got a little bit ahead of myself because David Pasternak's going to be responding, and now it's a 1-goal game. So we're entering the dying minutes in this game. Is Boston going to find a way to score another goal? Well, it doesn't look like it because Robert Thomas is picking up an insurance goal. The St. Louis Blues are taking down the Boston Bruins. So now we've seen 3 straight attacking team victories. Now, so far, I'm starting to notice a trend. I'm expecting 2 more attacking team victories and then we're going to see 5 straight defending team victories. It's just going to be swapping between attacking and defending. Honestly, you just want to be on the right side of the trends when it comes for your time to attack or to defend. We all know, regardless of what team we land on, since they're the attacking team, they're going to find a way to win, and it looks like Seattle's going to be winning this next matchup. Nah, but putting the jokes aside here, what is going on? Why did we start with 5 defending team victories and now attacking teams are just dominating? It doesn't make sense. Now Seattle, you are in the toughest spot imaginable. Because you really haven't been a franchise for that long, you don't have a lot of players to select from. So when it comes to the defense, you have 3 AHL players here. But you know what? It gets worse, because when it comes to your goaltending, you now have 2 AHL goaltenders. Yeah, you literally have to run this. You don't have any other options. Because at one point, Joey Daccord played games for the Ottawa Senators. Philip Grubauer was playing for the Colorado Avalanche. We have to send them back to their respective teams. These are your only 2 options. Now, when looking at the Montreal Canadiens, they're actually looking like a really good team. Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Arturi Lehkonen, Slafkovsky, Demidov, Brendan Gallagher. And considering which team they're taking on, yeah, they're going to win. I have no questions about this team winning. They're going to find a way to come out on top. They're playing Seattle. This should be light work for them. All right, so we're about to figure out whether or not this is rigged. If the Seattle Kraken win this game, then it's 100% rigged. Matty Beniers is picking up the first goal of the game. There is just no way. Montreal is going to be responding with back-to-back goals. Montreal should win this game 100 times out of 100. But for some reason, Seattle's made this a 1-goal game. But you know what? It looks like I spoke too soon. Back-to-back Montreal goals. That's going to be 4 goals in a row for the Montreal Canadiens. I can confidently say they're taking down Seattle, and it looks like that's going to be the case. A 5-2 victory for the Montreal Canadiens. An attacking team is falling once again. I mean, what can I really say? Seattle had so few players to actually bring to the team. What were they really going to do? Also, I guess I should mention this. When it comes to the Utah Mammoth, I did include players who played for Arizona, and I think that's pretty fair. Like, I don't even know what I would do for Utah if I didn't include players from Arizona. I guess they would basically just have no players on the team. Like, I guess at that point, we would just send Utah's AHL affiliate, but technically, that's also the Arizona Coyotes AHL affiliate. So yeah, that wouldn't have made much sense either. When it comes to the Florida Panthers, they're not nearly as good of a team as they used to be. They have lost a ton of players, so they're not the powerhouse that you're probably expecting. So let's go ahead and spin this defending team wheel, figure out who the Florida Panthers are going to be taking on, and it looks like it's going to be the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal getting into back-to-back matchups. We already know who Montreal has, but let's check in on Florida. Now, it's not like the Florida Panthers are a terrible team. However, they are definitely not the same team that we see today. There has been massive regression across the board with this team. They lost a handful of elite players. The defense still isn't too bad, and goaltending is alright because they have Spencer Knight and Montepal. However, if you were to compare this Florida team to the current Florida Panthers team, yeah, it doesn't even compare. Now, I could really see this matchup going either way. I think it's a pretty fair matchup between 2 good teams. Owen Tippett's going to start the goal scoring off in the first period for the Florida Panthers. Moving into the second, it looks like we're going to have a scoreless one. Maybe we're finally going to have our first overtime game, but Mackie Samoskevich, he's not about that. He's picking up a big goal, but Demidov would respond a couple seconds later, but then Oliver Ekman-Larsson's going to be responding. We have lots of goal scoring in the third period right now. But if we want this game to go to overtime, Montreal better pick up some quick goals. It's a 3-goal lead for the Florida Panthers. They're looking to expand on the power play, but they're not going to do so. This game's all over. The Florida Panthers are taking down the Montreal Canadiens 4-1, and it looks like the attacking teams are now back on top. Now, regarding that win for the Florida Panthers, if Seattle didn't take on the Montreal Canadiens, we probably would have been looking at 5 straight attacking team victories. Like, if you picked any NHL team that wasn't the Seattle Kraken, I bet you they would have beat Montreal, and then we would have saw 5 straight attacking team victories. Because yeah, let's keep it a stack. Every team in the league was beating Seattle. That team literally had nothing. Now, so far, 10 teams have been eliminated, but there's still a handful that need to attack, and it seems like our next attacking team is going to be the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I feel like at this point, every team left is somewhat competitive, so we're not going to see any more teams like the Seattle Kraken. Although Vegas is one of the younger teams on this wheel, they do still have a pretty solid team. Now, I want to say the Carolina Hurricanes are right up there with the Dallas Stars because Mikko Rantanen's going to be rejoining the team, but on top of Mikko Rantanen, Marty Necas is also going to be rejoining the team. Jake Etzel's rejoining the team. Nah, this team looks incredible. They are definitely one of the best teams out there. They're right up there with the Dallas Stars. The only reason I wouldn't put them ahead of the Dallas Stars is because I know Jake Onger is a better goaltender, so that might be the lone thing that holds Carolina back. But considering what team is in front of Kochetkov, I think they're still going to be pretty good. Now, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, they are in a better position than the Seattle Kraken, but I definitely wouldn't say they're in a great position. The forward core is good. Their main problem is the defense. We had to add 3 players from their AHL affiliate. If I didn't do that, that, they wouldn't have enough defensemen. The defense is what's going to hold this team back. When it comes to goaltending, they have Logan Thompson and Jonathan Quick. When I was originally making the rosters, I had Jonathan Quick on the LA Kings. I completely forgot he was on the Vegas Golden Knights for that really short stint. During that short stint, he won a Stanley Cup, but yeah, I completely forgot about that. All right, so here we go. Vegas, is your subpar defense going to let you down? There's a good possibility it does, because Jordan Staal and Dmitry Orlov are picking up the first 2 goals. Moving into the second, it was 3 unanswered before the Vegas Golden Knights would score. Tanner Pearson's going to get them on the board, but they have a big hill to climb in order to make this comeback. And I don't want to be a hater, but Vegas is just not making this comeback. The defense is too subpar. I can't imagine they're going to do it. There's only 7 minutes left in this game. Seth Jarvis is going to pick up a goal with 5 minutes left, but Carolina's going to be taking this one. Now, after starting the video off 0 for 5, attacking teams have been rolling. Over the past 6 matchups, they've only lost 1, and the only reason they lost that one was Seattle was on the attack. And that team honestly had no chance of winning. Now let's figure out if our next attacking team can keep the win streak going. They've won 2 in a row. Tampa's looking to make it 3 in a row. Like, it just seems like one side has to be dominating. Whether it's the defending teams or the attacking, somebody has to be leading the way. It looks like the Edmonton Oilers are going to be getting in on their second matchup. Tampa better be ready, because Edmonton's certainly not going to be folding. Or at least I don't think they're going to be folding. They do have Stuart Skinner in between the pipes, so I guess anything is possible. Now, you know what? Maybe I was sleeping on Tampa a little bit too much, because this team looks incredible. From top to bottom, they have a lot of amazing pieces here. The defense looks great as well. Like, yeah, the left side might be slightly weak, but the right side's pretty strong. And then when it comes to goaltending, you have Vasilevsky. Who cares if you have an AHL goaltender? You have Vasilevsky. We have 2 top teams going at it, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Edmonton Oilers. Who's going to be coming out on top in this matchup? Well, probably the Edmonton Oilers, because they're picking up 3 goals in the first period, another goal in the second. They are dominating this one. Tampa did make a pretty good comeback, 3 unanswered goals just before Darnell Nurse picked up the empty net goal. So it looks like the Edmonton Oilers are going to be taking down Tampa. It was a good comeback, but it just wasn't enough. Now, Tampa did what they could to make it competitive towards the end, but I guess it's not going to be enough. The Edmonton Oilers are taking them down, and they're going to be the first team to claim 2 logos. I say claim 2 logos like we're playing NHL Heist. They're the first team to beat 2 different teams. The Buffalo Sabres haven't taken on anyone yet, but they're looking to get in on the action next. Now, Buffalo, I might have to start putting a little bit of respect on your name, because you guys aren't a complete dumpster fire somehow. I do find it very ironic, though, the second they fired Kevin Adams, that's when they started winning a majority of their games. I do believe they were on a 4-game win streak before they fired Kevin Adams, but the fact that this team has won like 10 or 11 in a row, honestly, that's just kind of hilarious. And a majority of that success came after the Adams firing. No, in my opinion, that is just perfect timing. So Buffalo's brought some of their stars back. Jack Eichel's back on the team. Sam Reinhart's back on the team. Dylan Cousins, you're not a star, but you are back on the team. Same with JJ Peterka. They did lose a handful of the guys that are helping them win games right now, though, so maybe this team's not going to be quite as good as I thought. However, the defense is still looking strong. Goaltending isn't terrible. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, you're only an 83 overall, but with a better team in front of you, I expect better numbers. However, you're going to have your hands full with this Toronto Maple Leafs team, because they are looking stacked. This might be one of the best top 6 we've seen today. Like, this team just looks elite. When it comes to the defense, maybe that's not elite. Yeah, this defense is not elite. I'm going to keep it a stack. This is what's going to hold them back. Freddie Anderson, you're the number 1. Joseph Wall is going to be backing you up, but defense is going to let this team down. Unless you're scoring 7 goals a game, I think you're going to be losing. Also, we appreciate the big 3 is now back together. Just thought I mentioned that. Now, I know I mentioned this earlier, but we haven't seen any overtime games so far. All of the games have been just solely simulation. Maybe up until now, it was a scoreless first period. Moving into the second, Dylan Cousins is picking up 2 goals, but William Nylander did get the first of the game. So maybe we're about to finally see our first overtime game. But you know what? It's going to be tough to see that overtime game, especially with Kulich picking up this goal right here. Toronto, you need to score back-to-back goals, and you're going to have to score pretty quick. We're entering the final 10 minutes. We're probably in the final 5 now. You need to score real quick here, and you're not doing that. Toronto's going to be falling to the Buffalo Sabres. I'm sorry, but you can't make this up. They added Mitch Marner back to the team and then immediately lost in the first round. It's not even his fault, but that's still incredibly funny. Like, you just can't make this up. It makes no sense. How did the Toronto Maple Leafs immediately lose once Mitch Marner joins the team? At this point, it's just a full-blown conspiracy. Because let's face it, he didn't make that team worse. but for some reason, once he was added, they just perform worse. Mitch Marner, I'm sorry, you don't need to be catching a bunch of flack today. It's not your fault Toronto lost. Maybe Austin Matthews could have scored a goal in that game. Maybe somebody other than William Nylander could have shown up for the 18th billion time. I don't know how that worked out the way it did, but you know what? It's just the way she goes. The New York Rangers are the next team on the attack. It's time for them to bring back Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba. Because yeah, they're both coming back to the team. But of course, those two players aren't going to be the only ones rejoin the team. There's going to be a couple other players as well. But they're certainly going to have their hands full because they're going to have to take on the Colorado Avalanche. And they still have Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. Those guys haven't changed teams. Colorado brought in a couple players. They lost a couple players. But at the end of the day, they have Nathan MacKinnon and they still have Cale Makar. So you certainly can't sleep on that team. Now, the New York Rangers have a lot of X factors. And I mean a lot of X factors. Everyone on this team, except for Brett Howden, has an X factor when it comes to their forward core. When it comes to their defense, 4 of the 6 players here also have X factors. And then when it comes to goaltending, of course, Igor Shesterkin has an X factor. So this team is all about X factors. When it comes to superstar talents, though, they don't really have that when it comes to the forward core. It's like 85 and 86 overalls. That's about it. When it comes to their defense, yes, they have Adam Fox. But I don't know how I should feel about this team. I really don't. Like, they have pieces here, but I just don't know if I believe in it. I mean, I guess when comparing to the Colorado Avalanche, they're definitely in a better spot. Nathan MacKinnon, Nazem Kadri, Gabriel Landeskog, Jonathan Drouin. Like, this team doesn't have nearly as much depth. When it comes to the defense, though, I would say those are pretty even. Cale Makar and Bo Bottom are going to have to lead the way. When it comes to goaltending, though, yeah, this ain't it. So I think the Rangers are the favorite in this matchup, but don't sleep on Nathan MacKinnon and don't sleep on Cale Makar. Those two guys could single-handedly win you a game. So New York, you have a lot of X factors, and in this game, X factors do mean quite a bit, so maybe that's going to make the difference for the Rangers. But in the first period, it looks like we have ourselves a scoreless one. Moving into the second, we would see 1 goal being scored. Duhaime's going to be picking up that goal for the Colorado Avalanche. New York has the X factors, but apparently they don't have the goal scorers. Okay, I'm not going to lie, it would be crazy if the Rangers just didn't score a goal. I was gassing up that team. I mean, I wasn't really gassing them up. I said they had a lot of 85, 86 overall players in the forward core. But Buchnevich is going to be picking up a goal. Don't see that very often. But it looks like the Rangers have woken up. But Logan O'Connor's picking up a late goal. Is that goal right there going to be the difference? Or are the Rangers going to find a late one? It doesn't look like it. Duhaime's picking up an empty netter. And just like that, this game's over. The Avalanche are taking down the Rangers 4-2. Now, New York, at the end of that game, you did everything in your power to come back. You scored 2 late goals, but it's not going to be enough because Colorado's going to pick up 2 more goals after your 2 late goals, and that's going to be the difference in this game. So we have 12 attacking teams remaining on the wheel, so let's go ahead and move on to our next matchup, and it looks like that one's going to feature the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now I'm just going to keep it $150 with you. I do not remember what Columbus's roster looks like. Like, I literally don't remember anything from that roster. I know they still have Zach Werenski. I know they have Ad Fantilli. I know Patrick Laine is back on the team, but really outside that, I couldn't tell you who's on Columbus. Minnesota, on the other hand, we already know what they're looking like. Alright, so I completely forgot about one key player. That player being Artemi Panarin. For some reason, when I was just thinking back on the roster, I completely forgot about him. But yeah, he's moving back from the New York Rangers. He's heading over to Columbus. When it comes to the defense doesn't look terrible here, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good whatsoever. Meanwhile, when it comes to goaltending, you do have 89 overall Sergei Bobrovsky in between the pipes. So maybe those 2 big additions in Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin can be the difference maker. Now, Columbus, I might have been sleeping on you when we originally landed on you to be the attacking team. But you know what? I think you might have something here. You might be able to compete with this Minnesota Wild team. And saying that, you are down 2-1 after the first period. Moving into the second, it looks like it's going to be a scoreless one. Can we please get an overtime game? I want to see some OT action, but I don't think that's going to be happening today. It's a 4-1 lead for Minnesota. I think they have this one in the bag. And unless Columbus scores pretty quick here, we're just going to simulate the rest of this one. And that's exactly what we're doing because they're losing 6-1. Y'all really gave me a little bit of hope and then completely folded. So just when I had a little bit of faith in the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're going to let me down. Minnesota's going to be taking down their second team. Join the Edmonton Oilers as the only other team to do so. Now, hopefully our next attacking team has a bit more success than the Columbus Blue Jackets did. Dallas, we already know what you're about. Let's see who you're going to be taking on. Now, we all know Dallas is looking like a super team, so regardless of who they take on, it's going to be interesting. And they're taking on Edmonton. This is definitely going to be very interesting. So this is one of the biggest matchups of the video. The Dallas Stars taking taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Who's going to be coming out on top in this matchup? Well, it looks like Evander Kane starting the goal scoring off in the first period. Moving into the second, Evan Bouchard would give them a 2-0 lead, but that doesn't matter because Jason Robertson and Logan Stankoven are going to be responding. Please give us an overtime game. This would be the perfect overtime game, but we might not be getting overtime in this one. Connor McDavid's going to be picking up a big time goal, but Thomas Harley's going to be responding. It's back to a tie game, but it's not going to stay a tie for too long because Leon Draisaitl is then going to be picking up a big goal. Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are leading the way. Without those two guys, more than likely Edmonton wouldn't stand a chance, and it looks like Edmonton's going to take this one unless Dallas scores, but it doesn't look like it. Darnell Nurse is picking up another empty net goal. The Edmonton Oilers are taking down the heavily favored Dallas Stars, but I guess I shouldn't say the heavily favored. Dallas would have been heavily favored against any team not named Edmonton, but since they took on Edmonton, it was a pretty fair matchup, and Edmonton's coming out on top. So congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers. They've now taken down their third team. They've beat the Detroit Red Wings, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Dallas Stars, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of teams remaining on this board. So don't get ahead of yourselves. More than likely, you're going to have to beat a couple teams still. So let's not waste any more time. 10 more attacking teams are left on the wheel. And Edmonton, we literally just saw you in our last matchup, but I guess it's time for us to see you again. So the Edmonton Oilers are looking to take down their fourth team. Now, who's that fourth team going to be? The LA Kings. Why am I not surprised it's LA? Edmonton just had to match up against LA at some point in this video. Now, the LA Kings are going to be getting some pretty solid upgrades. When it comes to the forward core, 3 players are going to be returning, but when looking at the defense, this might be the best defense in the game. Basically, all 85 overalls and above, that's an elite defense. You have 84 overall, Cam Talbot in between the pipes. He can certainly hold it down in between the pipes, especially with the defense in front of him. I guess the real question is LA going to score enough goals? So the real question heading into this matchup is LA going to lose to Edmonton for the 8 billionth time? Because there is a very good possibility the LA Kings lose here, but maybe not, because Mikey Anderson's picking up the first goal of the game. Moving into the second, Warren Fogel's going to be responding. The third period is going to decide this game. Can LA finally take down the Edmonton Oilers? Well, they have a 1-goal lead, so you know what? Anything can happen. But just when I thought the LA Kings had a chance, here comes Nugent Hopkins, here comes Leon Draisaitl. They're now trailing by 1. And unless LA can find the back of the net pretty quick, Draisaitl's picking up another power play goal. This game's over. Edmonton's taking down LA. I'm pretty sure everyone saw this coming. I'm sorry, but at this point, it's getting ridiculous. LA, you have to start standing on business. You can't lose to the Edmonton Oilers all the time. Also, Edmonton just became the first team to beat 4 different teams. The next closest is Minnesota with 2. So I think we can all agree at this point the Edmonton Oilers are the clear favorite. That team just refuses to lose. Utah, you've added a couple new players back to the team, but if you have to match up against Edmonton, you're going to be in tough. But let's not act like Edmonton is the only team you can take on. There's a ton of different teams on this wheel, and it looks like the team you're taking on is Minnesota. For some reason, it seems like we're only landing on Edmonton and Minnesota right now. Now, when it comes to the Utah Mammoth, I said they added a handful of players back to the team. Players such as Connor Garland, Nick Bukestad, Jason Zucker, and Matisse Michelli are going to be rejoining, and of course, Jordan Martinook's also going to be rejoining. When it comes to the defense, though, it is very weak. They do not have a strong defense here, so I think this is certainly going to be one thing holding back Utah. And then when it comes to goaltending, Vamelka's still the guy. Connor Ingram's going to be the backup. I'm just not really putting a lot of faith in this Utah team, especially against Minnesota. So Utah, you're going to have your hands full in this matchup. Minnesota's the clear favorite, but that doesn't mean anything because at the end of the day, it's a 1-game series. Whoever wins this one's the winner. It could go either way, but Joel Eriksson is going to be picking up the first goal of the game. Moving into the second, Kevin Fiala is going to be picking up the second goal of the game. Utah, you better score quick. And you know what? I don't think that's going to be happening. Kirill Kaprizov's scoring, but Bukestad would respond, so this game's not over quite yet. But unless Utah scores pretty quick here, I do think this game will be over. They have a couple more minutes to score, and you know what? It doesn't look like that's going to be happening, so we'll simulate the rest of this one. Justin Brazeau is going to pick up a late goal, and just like that, Minnesota's coming out on top. So Minnesota's doing whatever they can to catch up to Edmonton. They're going to be taking down their third team. Between the Edmonton Oilers and Minnesota Wild, that is 7 teams eliminated just through 2 teams. Meanwhile, when it comes to teams like the Anaheim Ducks and the Washington Capitals, they haven't had to do anything yet. And Chicago, I'm not forgetting about you. Y'all haven't done anything either. So at this point, I just want to see somebody not named the Minnesota Wild and not named the Edmonton Oilers. We have the Ottawa Senators on the attack. Have we seen Ottawa yet? I'm actually not 100% sure if we've seen the Ottawa Senators. I was literally just talking about how there's a handful of teams that we haven't seen any matchups yet. One of those teams was the Ottawa Senators, but I completely overlooked them. I didn't even mention them. Washington's another team that hasn't been in any matchups yet, so we're seeing 2 new teams. I'm just happy we're not seeing Edmonton and Minnesota for the 18th time. Now, one team that I was certainly overlooking was the Ottawa Senators. because now that I'm looking at this team, they might have something. On paper, this team looks really good. The forward core is great, the defense looks spectacular, and then when it comes to goaltending, Gustafsson and Joey Daccord, you have all the pieces you need to go on a run. So the Ottawa Senators might be one of those teams that does something special today. Now when it comes to the Washington Capitals, the core pieces are still here. Ovi, Protas, Tom Wilson, Connor McMichael, those are the guys that Washington's going to be relying on. When it comes to the defense, Siegenthaler, John Carlson, Martin Ferravari, it's not a bad defense. We did have to call up a couple AHL guys though. Without that, they wouldn't have enough defensemen. Meanwhile, when it comes to goaltending, Darcy Kemper's back in between the pipes. We had to call up Clay Stevenson to be the backup. Washington's going to have their hands full, but as I mentioned not too long ago, at the end of the day, it's a one-game series. Anything can happen. Now, honestly, it wouldn't bother me if the Senators went on a bit of a run in this video. Like, they're a pretty good team, and very rarely do I think they have success in challenge videos, so let's see that happen today. Jacob Chikrin's going to be picking up the first goal for the Ottawa Senators. Moving into the second period, Drake Batherson and Protas are going to be picking up goals. I'm not going to lie, it kind of threw me off when Jacob Chikrin scored a goal because I thought the Washington Capitals had scored, but instead it's actually the Ottawa Senators. So Ottawa has a 2-1 lead entering the third period. Yeah, I'm going to keep it a stack. I thought Washington was up because of that Jacob Chikrin goal. Completely forgot he flipped teams. John Carlson's goal would tie this game up. Maybe we're finally going to get overtime. And then Ovi scores immediately after I say that. And then Ovi scores again right after I say that. We have 10 minutes left in this game. The Senators have to score some quick goals. And you know what? It doesn't look like that's going to be happening. The Ottawa Senators are going to be falling 5-2. So right after I was gassing this team up and hoping they could go on a run, they're immediately losing. Why does that not surprise me? So Ottawa, I had high expectations for you. You guys had an amazing team. I had a lot of faith in you. Then you proceed to completely fold by allowing 5 goals in the third period and losing to Washington. You can't make that up. Nah, like respectfully, y'all had one job. One job was to not lose in your first matchup. You proceed to get smoked. I'm not gonna lie, Ottawa, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You had all the pieces to go on a bit of a run. You just decide to not do that. We have San Jose taking on Pittsburgh. Of course, we've looked at both of these teams, so we don't have to go over the rosters. So Pittsburgh versus San Jose, certainly an interesting matchup. Two teams who have only been able to win one game so far. Let's figure out which team's going to be taking down their second. Well, McGroarty is going to start off the goal scoring in the first period, and in the second, Chris Letang is going to expand that goal scoring, but Timo Meier would respond, so it's still a 1-goal game entering the third. Please give me overtime. I need at least one overtime game. To be fair though, at this point, what I'm expecting is we're going to get an overtime game and then somebody's going to score in the first 35 seconds or something, and it's going to completely negate the fact that we went to overtime. But it looks like Pittsburgh's going to be taking this one after a scoreless third period. The Sharks are going to be falling 2-1, and Pittsburgh's going to be taking down another team. Now, I'm certainly not classifying the Pittsburgh Penguins as a super team. However, they have beaten multiple teams, and not too many teams can say that right now. Colorado's going to be our next attacking team, and they're going to be the next team looking to join that 2-win club. Now, one thing that is certainly going to impact whether or not Colorado joins that club is depending on who they take on, and it looks like it's going to be Colorado versus St. Louis. Now, St. Louis, you know exactly what you have to do here. You have to find a way to take down the Colorado Avalanche. Y'all can't go out like this. You need to find a way to win, and we are certainly winning because of Kevin Hayes and Jaden Schwartz. Okay, I was expecting like Tage Thompson and Jordan Kyrou, but no, it's Kevin Hayes and Jaden Schwartz. Who would have thought? It looks like Tage Thompson is eventually going to score, and then Barbashev's going to score, and we are going to absolutely dominate this game, scoring 7 goals. But yeah, who would have thought? Now, St. Louis's offense was just rolling in that game. 7 goals on the Colorado Avalanche. It didn't matter what they tried to do. St. Louis just kept putting the puck in the back of the net, and because of that, Colorado was going to be eliminated. Now, just about every team is attacked, but there is still 4 more teams that need to attack. In Anaheim, it looks like it's finally time for you to get in on the action. I also kind of find it crazy one of the remaining attacking teams is the Minnesota Wild. There is no way Minnesota's getting into another matchup. This team is somehow going to win 5 games before they've even attacked once. Now, when it comes to the Ducks forward core, it's not like they're getting any crazy upgrades that we forgot about. Trevor Zegras is back on the team, but we all remember him being on the Ducks. Ricardo Kell's back on the team, but it's not like we forgot about him playing for the Anaheim Ducks. When it comes to the defense, though, you might have forgot about Shea Theodore because he hasn't been in Anaheim for a long time now. Hampus Lindholm's going to be rejoined the team as well, so is Josh Manson. The defense is looking pretty strong, and then when it comes to goaltending, it's Lucas Dostal and it's John Gibson. So a lot of the players that are back on this Anaheim Ducks team played with this team within the last 3 years. I would say everyone except for Shea Theodore because it's been a handful of years since he was in Anaheim. So Minnesota, are you somehow going to win your 4th game without even attacking? All 4 of your wins would come from defenses. That would actually be crazy work. But you know what? I don't think we have to worry about that because the Anaheim Ducks are picking up 3 goals in the first period. Moving into the second, it's going to be a scoreless one. If Minnesota wants to make the comeback in this game, they have to score 4 unanswered goals and they have to do it pretty quick. Okay, yeah, this game's over. 5 unanswered, 6 unanswered goals. I guess the Wild didn't stand a chance. So Anaheim, I was questioning you. I was doubting whether or not you could compete with Minnesota. Not only did you compete with Minnesota, you destroyed them. So with that Minnesota Wild loss, there's only 2 attacking teams left, and it looks like Chicago's finally going to be getting in on the action, and they're going to be the last team that we have to overview. So Chicago, you're finally going to be playing in your first matchup, and who are you going to get the honor of taking on? It looks like it's going to be the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Chicago is looking significantly better. Just look at all the players that are rejoined the team. Hagel, Taylor Hall, Dylan Strome, Nick Schmaltz, Kirby Dach's even rejoined to be a third-line centerman. When it comes to the defense, Forsling and Seth Jones are rejoining. This team doesn't look terrible. The goaltending is not ideal by any means, but they look significantly better than what they do right now. So now that we don't have to be looking at rosters anymore, we can just start diving into matchup after matchup. Chicago and Buffalo, let's figure out what's going to be happening. Brandon Hagel is going to be picking up the first goal of the game. Moving into the second, though, it's all Buffalo. Matthias Samuelsson, low-key starting to turn into an offensive defenseman, something I wasn't expecting this season. No, like seriously, I'm pretty sure he has already surpassed his career high in points, and he only played about 50 less games. Bro's locked in this season. Meanwhile, Dylan Cousins and Taylor Hall are exchanging goals. Buffalo still has a 2-goal lead. We're entering the final 5 minutes. Can Chicago pick up a quick goal, or is this game already over? I think it's safe to say this game's already over. Dylan Cousins' goal is going to be the last one. Buffalo's taking down Chicago 4-2. Chicago waited until they were in the top 10 to finally get into their matchup, only for them to immediately lose. Now, with that Chicago loss, every team has officially been involved in a matchup, so we no longer have to look at rosters moving forward. The Washington Capitals are the next team on the attack because they're the only team that hasn't attacked yet. So let's just go figure out who they're going to be taking on. So there's 8 different teams for the Washington Capitals to take on, and it looks like they're going to be taking on the powerhouse in the St. Louis Blues. So we have Washington versus St. Louis, 2 great teams, but I'm not sure if Washington can compete with the offense of St. Louis, because in the last game St. Louis played, their offense was ridiculous, and it's going to stay ridiculous as Nick Leddy and Callie Rosen are picking up goals. Nothing else needs to be said. Nick Leddy led the way in goal scoring. Nick Leddy just scored more goals in a game than Alexander Ovechkin. That is not right. I don't like this whatsoever. Now, it's actually kind of funny, but this is how you know I'm definitely not rigging the video. Because if I was in fact rigging this video, I definitely wouldn't be allowing Nick Leddy to be the guy scoring goals. Like seriously, if I was going to rig a video, I would just rig it in the fact that Robert Thomas is picking up a hat trick in every game, or Tage Thompson's dominating. Not having Nick Leddy and Callie Rosen lead the way. Like, bro, what did I just witness? But anyways, we're down to our final 8 teams. The Ducks, the Sabres, the Carolina Hurricanes, Edmonton Oilers, and Florida Panthers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Vancouver Canucks, and of course, the St. Louis Blues. So let's move on to our next matchups. 8 teams remain, but who's going to be the next attacking? Obviously, it's going to be the St. Louis Blues. They want to keep on winning. So St. Louis, you're on a bit of a roll right now. Let's see if we can keep that going. You need to beat Carolina in order to do that, and that's definitely not going to be an easy task. Now, St. Louis has had a lot of questionable goal scorers in this video, so are we going to see that again? Is Nick Leddy going to pick up a hat trick in this game or something? Who knows? We have seen a lot of wild things, but in the first period, it looks like we have ourselves a scoreless one. Moving into the second, Jake Neighbors is finally going to put one in the back of the net. St. Louis has a 1-goal lead entering the third. There's just no way St. Louis wins again, right? You know what? Maybe there is a chance St. Louis wins again. They still have a 1-goal lead entering the final 5 minutes. Carolina is yet to get on the board. Is Jordan Binnington picking up a shutout? It looks like it, but maybe not, because Marty Necas is going to score a goal with a minute left. We're finally off to overtime. It might have taken until the second round, but we finally have overtime. This has been a long time coming, an overtime matchup between the Carolina Hurricanes and St. Louis Blues. Let's see who's coming out on top. So St. Louis is putting on some good pressure in the offensive zone, sending it back to James Schwartz. Tage Thompson's shot's going to be blocked. He's going to be recovering it. He's looking to find an open man, but he just can't find anyone, so he's going to take it himself, but Kochekhov's making the save. So it's an offensive zone draw for the St. Louis Blues, but it looks like they're losing that one. Brett Pesce's looking to move, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to take this himself. He's trying to dance through the St. Louis defense, but it's not going to work out. St. Louis probably could have had a breakaway there, but instead they're turning it over, and here goes Carolina. A chance to end this game, but Binner's making the big save. Now we're just about halfway through overtime. Each team has had some incredible opportunities. Vinny Trocheck's going to send it over to Slavin. Slavin's trying to find an open man, but he can't find one. But yes, he can. A shot there from Vincent Trocheck, but he just didn't have enough power on it. So Marty Necas is looking to turn on the Jets, and that's exactly what he's doing, flying by the defense. Carolina, a great opportunity, and it looks like they're going to end this one. Binner, how did you not cover the puck? What just happened? I need to watch the replay, because Binner, that goal should not have been scored. So Marty Necas is turning on the Jets. He's going to lose the puck, and I guess Sebastian Aho is going to collect this one somehow. Benner has an opportunity to cover it, and he just missed it. Benner was too slow to cover the puck up. Sebastian Aho is going to steal that one away, and he's going to bury that one in the back of the net, and just like that, the game's over. That is a crazy way for this one to end. So St. Louis, you went on a great run, but at the end of the day, I guess it's just not enough. You're going to be falling to the Carolina Hurricanes. No, that was a tough one to lose. If Jordan Binnington just could have covered that puck, we wouldn't be talking about St. Louis losing right now. Now we just have to move on because I don't think I'm going to be able to get over that disappointment. Jordan Binnington, all you had to do was cover the puck. But I guess Sebastian Aho was just a bit quicker. Florida's going to be on the attack next. Let's figure out who they're taking on. So we know Florida is going to be on the attack, but who is going to be defending? Well, it looks like it's going to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. I thought we were going to get a Stanley Cup rematch there for a second, but I guess that's not the case. Now, so far, Pittsburgh's actually impressed me in this video. I wasn't expecting too much from them, but they've already won 2 matchups, and they're looking to win a third right now. However, it's going to be very tough, especially if you're going to be allowing 3 goals in the first period. Moving into the second, it doesn't look like the Penguins are responding, so they might be losing this one. I hate how every time I gas up a team, they immediately fold. Like I was saying some positive things about the Pittsburgh Penguins. I was saying they were looking like a great team. They then proceed to lose 5-1 in a matter of seconds. So I'd like to apologize to all Pittsburgh Penguins fans. I'm the reason you guys lost that matchup, and I think we can all agree on that. If I didn't gas up the Pittsburgh Penguins, they would have 1000% won that matchup, and you can't change my mind. The Vancouver Canucks are on the attack next. No comment. No comment whatsoever. Moving forward, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not giving my opinion on any matchups. All we know is Vancouver is taking on Florida. So we're just going to jump into this matchup, and I'm not going to say anything. We are just going to watch it happen, and we're just going to commentate over what happens. So these two teams are exchanging goals in the first period. Moving into the second, Vancouver seems to have the lead. That's all I'm going to say. They seem to have the lead. That doesn't mean anything, though. We are just going to watch a bit of the third period, and if Florida doesn't score pretty quick, I'm assuming Vancouver's going to win this one. And with that JT Miller goal right there, and the fact that Vancouver scored 9 goals in this game, I think it's safe to say they're winning. So right after taking down the Pittsburgh Penguins, Florida's defense is going to completely collapse, 9 goals allowed, and we're officially down to our final 5. Now, out of our remaining 5 teams, 4 of them still have to attack, and it looks like Buffalo is going to be the next attacking team. Now, Buffalo, who are you interested in attacking? Do you want to take on the Vancouver Canucks? It doesn't look like it. Instead, they want the Anaheim Ducks. So with this huge game coming up right here, you might be wondering, stick on the ice, who do you think is the favorite? And my response to that is no comment. I do not have a favorite. There is no favorite in this matchup whatsoever. All we know is in the first period, Jack Eichel scored, and in the second period, Hampus Lindholm scored. That is the only thing we know so far. And as of right now, those are the only goals that are going to be scored in this one. We're entering the final 10 minutes, and nobody has picked up another goal. Are we off to overtime? Maybe not, because Cutter Gauthier is going to be scoring. And you know what, Buffalo? That's my fault. I shouldn't have said, are we off to overtime? Because with me saying that, that means somebody's going to score a goal, and I think that might have cost Buffalo the game. So Buffalo, I'd like to apologize. So with that Ducks win, every team remaining has beat at least 2 teams, with the Edmonton Oilers being the clear favorite with 4 victories. But now that I've called them the clear favorite, expect them to lose their next matchup. I do want to say, me calling a team a favorite doesn't actually impact anything whatsoever. Let's not think that if I say a team's a favorite, they're bound to lose. It's just a bad coincidence. That happens way too frequently. Like, it happens 95% of the time. But that shouldn't be the case. It just seems to happen like that. But let's not focus on me having an impact on these games, because I clearly don't. We're moving into our next game, and that's going to be the Anaheim Ducks taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. So Carolina and Anaheim should be a pretty good matchup. One of these teams is going to be walking away with their 3rd victory. Now, who is that team going to be? Well, let's find out. Lundstrom's picking up the first goal of the game. In the second period, Adam Henrique and Hampus Lindholm are doubling down. Carolina, you need to make a quick comeback in this one if you want to win. I just asked Carolina to make a quick comeback. They're not going to score, are they? They're going to go scoreless in this one. Carolina's going to lose, and they're going to get shut out. Yeah, that's what I get for asking for a quick goal. Okay, like, we all understand that it's just a very weird coincidence that whenever I jump on a team's bandwagon, they immediately lose. But this is getting a little bit ridiculous. I asked Carolina to score a quick goal in the 3rd period. They proceed to not score a goal at all. It's one thing for them to not score a quick goal and then maybe score a goal with 5 minutes left. They just proceeded to not score a single goal. Now, things aren't adding up here. Now, with that Carolina loss, there's only one team left on the attacking wheel, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. So Edmonton's going to be attacking. We just have to figure out who they're taking on. There's only two different options for the Oilers to take on. It's the Ducks or the Canucks, and it looks like it's going to be the Canucks, and that means the Ducks are moving on to the final. Now, the winner of this matchup right here is going to be taking on the Anaheim Ducks in the final. A Pacific Division team is going to be walking away as the winner. We just don't know which Pacific Division team yet. Klingberg and Evander Kane are picking up goals. Has Evander Kane scored in every Edmonton win so far? I feel like he has. I feel like Evander Kane's been picking up a lot of goals in this video. So far, the Oilers have a 3-2 lead. Let's see if they can hold on to that lead. Hey, you know what? It looks like Edmonton might be able to hold on to it. Jason Dickinson is responding though, so we're back to a 1-goal game. And it looks like Podkolzin's going to double down right after that. If Edmonton loses after I was saying they might win this game, that is crazy work. Okay, I'm sorry. There's just no way I could have predicted this. Edmonton is going to fall because I gassed them up in the slightest way. You can't make that up. You cannot make that up whatsoever. Moving into the third period, I was saying, let's see if Edmonton can hold on to that lead. After that Connor McDavid goal, I was assuming Edmonton would be able to hold on to that lead. And then they proceed to allow 3 unanswered in the third period. Edmonton's eliminated, and we have our final. It's Vancouver taking on Anaheim. Honestly, it's reached the point that when it comes to challenge videos, I almost don't want to talk. I almost just want to sit here and just simulate. Because if I talk, I will somehow have an impact on the game. We have the Anaheim Ducks taking on the Vancouver Canucks. Only one team can walk away as the winner. Let's go figure out which team that's going to be. Also, I guess we can spin this wheel one last time. Let's figure out who the defending team's going to be. Anaheim's defending, so that means Vancouver's attacking. So it all comes down to our final matchup, the Vancouver Canucks and the Anaheim Ducks. I have sent every player back onto their last team, and these are the final 2 teams standing. But who is going to come out on top? Well, Elias Lindholm and Pius Suter are picking up goals in the first period. Moving into the second, it looks like they're going to be exchanging goals. Vancouver has a 2-goal lead entering the third. If Vancouver just held on to all of their players over the past couple of years, maybe they would be able to win a Stanley Cup. Maybe they would be a competitive team, but it's just been a dumpster fire over there. And because of that, it looks like Vancouver's going to be winning today. It's kind of funny. Vancouver is going to win this challenge video right here because of how big of a dumpster fire they've been over the past couple of years. There's 53 seconds left in this game, and it looks like it's now over. The Vancouver Canucks are coming out on top because they have been a dumpster fire over the last handful of years, resulting in them trading away a ton of amazing players. So one final team has to be eliminated, and one final logo needs to be moved, and that's going to be the Ducks logo. The last team standing is the Vancouver Canucks. Congratulations on being the last team standing, but I don't really know how much I should congratulate you guys, because the only reason you won today is because of how big of a dumpster fire you were. Imagine if you still had Bo Horvat on the team. Imagine if you still had JT Miller. Imagine if you still had Quinn Hughes. All of those guys today were key pieces in you guys being the final team standing, but unfortunately, you don't have any of those guys anymore, and you're a shell of your former self.